Number 9. River ROSENQUIST. Shortly after closing hours on December the 29th of 2021, a maintenance worker at Florida's Naples Zoo entered an unauthorized area of the facility. He crossed the fence barrier and put his arm through the fencing of a tiger's enclosure. The 26-year-old man, identified as River ROSENQUIST, proceeded to either pet or feed an 8-year-old Malayan tiger named Echo. The animal then attacked him, grabbing his arm and pulling it into the cage. ROSENQUIST called the emergency services to ask for help, and when a deputy arrived at the scene, he saw the worker with his arm in the feline's mouth. At first, the officer kicked the fence to try and scare Echo, hoping that he would let go of ROSENQUIST's arm. Seeing as the animal wouldn't budge, he pulled his gun out and shot it dead. Later reported he'd been forced to do so in order to save ROSENQUIST's life. The latter suffered serious injuries and was airlifted to a nearby hospital. Doctors managed to save his arm, and the Collier County Sheriff's Office announced he wouldn't be criminally charged in the death of the tiger. Number 8. FABIEN ARDOIN. Mechanical engineering student and part-time model, FABIEN ARDOIN was hiking with a group of friends and his girlfriend through Australia's Royal National Park on June the 8th of 2014. The park is home to the Wedding Cake Rock attraction, which is fenced off and features signs warning that it could fall at any time. In spite of the clearly stated dangers, the sandstone rock formation is a favorite among daredevil photo enthusiasts, and local authorities have reportedly struggled to keep people from it. 23-year-old Ardoin, who had previously worked as a rock climbing instructor in France for approximately 4 years, deviated from the safe path to reach the edge. Ardoin was allegedly hanging from the side of the rock when it crumbled in his hands, causing him to lose his grip. Other reports stated that it slipped while jumping from a lower tier to an upper portion of the sandstone formation. In the moments that followed, he plummeted over 130 feet, or about half the height of a giant sequoia tree, to the turbulent waters below. Due to high winds and rough seas, it took rescuers roughly 6 hours to find Ardoin's lifeless body. Number 7. CHERYL MAURY. 33-year-old CHERYL Renee MAURY was trying to scale a fence surrounding an outdoor swimming pool in Greer, South Carolina, on July the 7th of 2015. While accompanied by a friend at around midnight, the mother of 3 started climbing the wrought iron fence, trying to reach the neighborhood pool. During the attempt, MAURY lost her footing and fell onto the metal structure, resulting in her leg and pelvis region being impaled by a spike. Her friend consequently called 911. Emergency workers had to cut the fence in order to free MAURY, and she was rushed to the hospital with part of the metal spike still embedded in her leg. Her wound resulted in critical blood loss, as the spike appeared to have severed at least one major artery. Doctors performed emergency surgery on her, but the woman was ultimately pronounced dead. Number 6. LEANNE. A woman in her 30s, only identified as LEANNE, visited the Wildlife World Zoo near Phoenix, Arizona on March the 9th of 2019. When she reached the jaguar's cage, LEANNE leaned over the barrier, keeping visitors at a safe distance from the deadly predator. The jaguar then pushed its paw through a hole in the fence and clawed at the woman's arm, leaving her with multiple lacerations. Passers-by rushed to her aid and paramedics were called to the scene. LEANNE was taken to a local hospital where doctors stitched up her wounds, which weren't deemed life-threatening. While subsequently speaking to a media outlet, LEANNE said she felt lucky to have survived the mauling, admitting it had been wrong of her to ignore the barrier. The woman added that the zoo should consider moving the fence back to prevent other visitors from making the same mistake. Number 5. FELON Smith. On June the 27th of 2019, FELON Smith was at the 69th Street Red Line station in Chicago, Illinois, while on her way to retrieve some papers from her downtown office. As she was waiting for the train, Smith dropped her cell phone, which tumbled down the train tracks. The 37-year-old woman climbed down to pick it up, ignoring the warning sign telling riders to stay off the railway. Smith was on the tracks for only 17 seconds before being fatally hit by the Chicago L train. Following the woman's death, her family asked for the adoption of a FELON Smith Act, requiring train stations to install guardrails, more warning signs, and bigger staffing numbers. Surveillance footage released later in the investigation showed that the train's operator hadn't been paying attention to what was happening in front. Approximately 12 seconds before the accident, he'd been looking out the window and making hand gestures at the ongoing traffic. After the video surfaced in the media, he was fired for violating guidelines regarding train operations. However, transit authorities stated that it was impossible to determine if the train could have been stopped in time to avoid the fatal impact. Number 4. Ayano Tokumasu. 20-year-old Japanese woman Ayano Tokumasu was visiting the Niagara River on August 14th of 2011. Tokumasu, who was a student at a Toronto language school, climbed up on the railing to get a better look at the Niagara's famous waterfalls. After stepping up to the barrier, the young woman lost her balance and fell into the water almost 80 feet upstream from the brink of Horseshoe Falls. Tokumasu was swiftly carried by the current and swept over the precipice, which stands at over 180 feet. Emergency workers searched the area with boats and helicopters in an effort to find her body, which was eventually retrieved several days after the tragic incident by the Niagara Parks Police. Andrea Smith and Jason Watson, a Canadian couple vacationing in the area, were reported to have inadvertently been captured in the same photo with Tokumasu moments before she suffered the fatal fall. The photo, picked up by multiple media outlets, showed the young woman in the background after she'd already climbed up the stone ledge on which the barrier sat. Number 3. Dale Whitehurst. While walking home near Wolstenton Retail Park in Stoke-on-Trent, England, Dale Whitehurst decided to take a shortcut in June of 2021. In doing so, the man attempted to climb a 7-foot metal palisade security fence. He managed to get up on it but then slipped, resulting in his jeans being pulled down around his ankles and cutting the blood flow to his feet. As he fell over, Whitehurst hit his head and was knocked unconscious. The 44-year-old was left hanging upside down on the fence, with jagged spikes piercing both his ankles. When Whitehurst awoke, he couldn't feel his legs. Whenever he tried freeing himself, the jeans only twisted tighter around his ankles until the pain would just knock him out again. His phone was out of reach, so he tried screaming for help but received no response and ended up being stranded on the fence for 5 days. The man subsequently recalled thinking he was going to die and that he'd started experiencing hallucinations due to the high summer temperatures. At night he would get cold and start feeling the lack of food and water while trying to survive. Whitehurst managed to get hold of an empty soda can in which he'd urinate and then use for hydration. On the 5th day, he heard people walking by again and started screaming loudly. 3 young men approached him, and as one of them ran to get help, another went to get him water. Whitehurst later learned one of the men was an off-duty police officer. Firefighters responding to the emergency call had to cut down nearby trees to release him. He was taken to the Royal Stoke Hospital, where doctors told him they needed to amputate both of his legs because they were severely infected and covered in dead flesh. Medical staff reported that Whitehurst had had oxygen trapped inside every organ and described his survival as miraculous. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below, or follow us on Instagram and reach out to us there. Number 2. Joshua Thomas Taylor. Joshua Thomas Taylor was driving along with his family on Interstate 65 near downtown Nashville, Tennessee on May the 5th of 2022. When his child threw his favorite toy out of the window, 32-year-old Taylor decided to keep driving, only to return later that night to search for it. He drove back to the area at around 9 p.m., parked at an off-ramp and got out of the car to look for the toy, but he was unable to find it. The Tennessee Department of Transportation help truck drivers approached him and tried to talk to him. Potentially startled by them, Taylor then ran across the interstate and jumped over the barrier to the northbound side. The truck drivers immediately started traveling to the opposite side of the interstate when they heard a loud collision. Moments after jumping the barrier, Taylor was hit by an SUV and subsequently pronounced dead at the scene. According to a statement released by the police, the driver involved in the accident didn't display any signs of impairment and he hadn't been crossing the speed limit when the impact occurred. Number 1. MADALYN Davis. On the night of January the 11th of 2020, Instagram model MADALYN Davis and her friends were at a party in Vaucluse, a suburb of Sydney, Australia. At around 6 a.m, they all decided to visit Diamond Bay Cliffs, a popular selfie spot nearby to watch the sunrise. In an attempt to get a better photo of herself with the view, 21-year-old Davis climbed over a safety barrier to go and sit on the edge of a cliff. At some point, the young woman lost her balance and plunged to her death more than 250 feet. Witnesses later reported to have heard her friend saying she has gone before they called the emergency services at around 6:32 a.m. Her lifeless body was found wedged in a rock shelf roughly 55 feet below the surface of the sea. Police didn't suspect foul play in the incident, and a coroner recorded a verdict of misadventure. Further investigations revealed that Davis had a mix of alcohol and drugs in her system. The coroner noted that the substances had likely impaired her balance and decision-making. Thanks for watching. Would you rather solve a 25-piece puzzle every time you had to use the restroom or pay a quarter? Let us know in the comments section below.